am chilling down from the beach. Just dried off, like, yeah. So anyway, I was like, hey, let's come do a video. And I was trying to think of the next show I wanted to do for you guys, because the list goes on for the shows I want to do, and I just couldn't think. Is my hand asleep? And I was like, okay, why not do a classic 2000s show? Sorry, I have like sand everywhere. The only thing that sucks about going to the beach is getting sand everywhere. And it was between two shows, so I was like, let's do both. One will be this week, the next will be this week. So anyway, I'm just rambling. So, hi guys, welcome back. Let me introduce myself, because that was rude. My name is Joy. Welcome to Joy Serendipity. And if you're new here, I've been doing a series on lessons we can learn from nostalgic shows, and how we can like use them in life. If you have not realized by the picture in the beginning, we are going to be doing Ugly Betty, a show that shaped us all, even though we may have not realized it. If you have not watched it, add it to your list. I'm just giving you guys gems to watch, and why not do Ugly Betty? So if you grew up in the 2000s, you know this show was not just about fashion. It was, let me get a towel while I do this. It wasn't just about fashion. It was about like office drama. It was also about a young woman who was trying to find her place in an industry that was not really meant for her. And it was constantly telling her that she didn't belong just because she didn't fit the status quo of beauty standards, which I've been talking a lot about beauty standards on my TikTok and how those need to change, because it's doing a lot of people a disservice by just sticking to old ways of what is deemed as beautiful. So definitely go check those videos out. I'm like going on, and I'm starving, blah blah. But this is something that we can all relate to, and I feel like you guys could learn a lot from it. There's so much that we can relate to in the show, and that we can take on in our daily lives, no matter how old we are. Betty was underestimated and laughed at and often dismissed, but the lessons hidden in her story are timeless. And when I say timeless, I mean timeless. They're about resilience, confidence, family, ambition, and the complicated process of becoming who you're meant to be. So today I'm breaking down the biggest life lessons we can learn from Ugly Betty. And this isn't just about TV nostalgia. It's about what the show can teach us about navigating our 20s and 30s and even beyond. So definitely hit the subscribe and like button and stay tuned, because you aren't going to want to miss it. So when Betty first started at Mode, she looked nothing sleek, polished, or anything like the women around her. She wore bright colors, she had braces, she had glasses, she wore clashing patterns. Braces again. And people didn't hesitate. They didn't hesitate at all to call her out for it, weird, and you're very different. You're not like everyone else, which that's a bad thing. Why would you want to be like anyone else? Especially in the beauty world. But here's the thing, her difference was what made her strength, and we all can learn from that, because our differences are what makes our strength. Sorry, all this sand on me, I thought I cleaned off, is bothering me. I just double shower. But yeah, what made her different is what strengthened her and made her unique. Think about it. How often do we question ourselves, and do we shrink ourselves to fit in rooms where we already know that we're out of place in? I want to know, how many times have you asked yourself, should I dress differently? Should I talk differently? Should I tone myself down so people take me seriously? Betty teaches us that what makes you different is exactly what sets you apart. I bet you thought I was going to say, what makes you different makes you beautiful. That too. But yeah, what makes you different is what sets you apart in a good way. If she had tried to become just another mode girl, she would have disappeared in the background. Instead, her uniqueness, her empathy, her ideas, her heart, that is what made her unforgettable. And in an industry like that, you definitely want to be unforgettable, because once you're in that person's mind, they're always looking out for what new trends you invent or what new styles you bring to the table. And the same goes with life in any aspect. So this is your reminder in a world that pressures us into someness. Your quirks, your background, your perspective, those are things that will make you stand out. And Betty owned that, even when it hurt. So when you're going into work every day, I need you to, yes, play by the rules, but don't go along with the okie doke. Don't go along with the status quo all the time, because your difference to that company can make you stand out, get promotions, any of that. Same for how you dress in the world. Same for in the dating world. No one wants someone who is like everyone else, because at that point, what is the point of settling down? Anyone who calls you out for being different or being weird, they're the weird ones. So that is one big lesson we can learn from Betty. And yeah, you don't. I really wanted to do this on the beach, guys, so you guys can have a different setting. And I'm looking around to see if there's like any areas, but unfortunately there isn't. So next time I'll take you there. I might actually do a little mini vlog today so you guys can come get food with me and all of that. But yeah, anyway, I got off of the point, off of the wreck. So lesson 2 is resilience in the face of rejection. That is a lesson that we're going to focus on. So having resilience in the face of rejection. How many of you guys been rejected by something that you truly, really wanted? Me. And I always question, like, why is this happening? I really worked hard for it. Why am I not? I put in the work to get what it is I want, and I still was denied. Like, it makes you wonder. One of the biggest patterns in the show is how often Betty was rejected. Whether it was in friendships, at work, anything of that sort. Do I want a different scenery? Sorry guys, I'm looking around. I'm looking at where the sun is shining. But yeah, let's be honest, most of us knows how hard it stings to be rejected by everything and everyone. Whether it's a job rejection, whether it's being ghosted. I know a lot of us have been dealing with that lately. Or feeling excluded from a friend group. Rejection makes us question our worth, and everyone has dealt with it. So don't feel like you're weird for being rejected. But Betty's story shows us that rejection is often redirection. You hear that all the time. It is a cliche saying, but it's true. It wouldn't be cliche if it wasn't true. So that's better. The lighting looks good. We're looking good right here. The sun's coming out right there, so there we go. I keep notes just to know where I'm if I get off track. But okay, so I already talked about what this part is for. Sorry guys, I got off track. So anyway, like I was saying, rejection makes us question our worth. And if you sit in it too long, you will start to believe that you are not worthy of what it is that you're seeking. It could just be a pause, as in you're not ready for it is what you want, and things of that sort. So every time someone tried to push Betty, push her out, she found a way to prove them wrong. Am I saying you should do that all the time? Probably not. If they keep rejecting you, you just go start what it is that you want, start the friendship that you want, friendship group. But nonetheless, she proved herself of being worthy of what it is that she really wanted. Something I loved about Betty is she didn't pretend rejection didn't hurt. Like, she cried, she sat in those emotions, she doubted herself, she had moments where she wanted to quit. And that's real life. Emotions are normal. I don't know why people try to weaponize others' emotions, but emotions are normal, very much so. Too often we glamorize resilience like it's easy. It is a hard thing to do, and it's a lot of the times not wanted. A lot of times people don't want to deal with like, hey, I'm resilient, blah blah blah. It wasn't by choice. But resilience is choosing to move forward even when your heart is bruised. And a lot of us learn that at times where we don't want to learn it, unfortunately. But over time, consistency and showing up and proving herself, being dependable, made her respected in a place where she was once invisible. So in certain aspects, you should try to prove yourself, like, hey, I am worthy, I am smart, I am creative, you need my brain. But yeah, that is another lesson. I do have water, I can drink this. Another one I would say is integrity will outlast shortcuts. Now this is one a lot of people need to learn, because a lot of people like to take the shortcuts and you see them succeeding out loud, but I have another story for you. But so at Mode, everyone was scheming, backstabbing, gossiping, and plotting for promotions. Betty, however, stayed true to herself. And that's one of the show's strongest lessons. You don't have to compromise your values to succeed. Now, I don't want to go too far into this, but at one of my old jobs, I saw a lot of that. Like, you had to backstab others and do terrible things to people who aren't as fortunate in order to climb to the top. That's why you never saw me like at the top, because I wasn't willing to do others terrible the way others were willing to do that. And so I was like, you know what, instead of trying to climb the ladder and doing wrong, going against my morals and values, I am going to just go somewhere else, go where that is not needed to succeed. Because you don't have to be crabs in a bucket or do people wrong in order to be successful. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that. They either don't know or they don't care, and they're both bad, just as bad. So I felt that this lesson, it hit hard in today's world where clout and quick wins are tempting. And you might see people who lie, cheat, or manipulate their way into opportunities or success, and it feels like they're winning. On the outside, it looks like they're winning. But just like in Ugly Betty, those shortcuts eventually do backfire. You may be present to see the backfire, or you may not be. Either way, just know that they backfire. Betty's career wasn't fast, but it was steady and real, and she earned it. And because of her integrity, the right people, the people who mattered, saw her value. So if you're tempted to cut corners, remember Betty. Integrity may not always be glamorous, but it builds a foundation that lasts. And foundation is the key component to a successful anything, a successful relationship, a successful career, a successful business, healthy lifestyle. Those who take shortcuts like plastic surgery and stuff, it may look good on the outside. A lot of the times their health is not looking good at all, and the upkeep is causing a toll on their bank account. So whatever looks good on the outside It's not always good on the inside. Glitter is not gold, or however that saying goes. Next, I would say the importance of family and balance is important. However, I want to also add in, because I know a lot of people aren't close to their families due to whatever situation. Your family is who you create. So I'll take your family and apply it to this lesson, because I hear you and I see you. So the importance of family and balance is another lesson. One of the things that grounded Betty most was her family. She didn't come from wealth. She didn't come from privilege. She had a father who worked hard, a sister who challenged her like any other sibling, and a home life that was messy but full of love. Does that sound familiar for a lot of you guys? Her family reminded her where she came from, and honestly, they kept her from losing herself in the chaos of mode. The lesson is especially relevant for your 20s. We're often focused on chasing success. I gotta be successful. Come on, like, where's my success? On proving ourselves, that we forget to nurture the people who help us stay grounded. Betty struggled with balance a lot too, and sometimes her career took over, and sometimes her family pulled her away from her goals. And that happens to a lot of us. There needs to be an even balance. But she always found her way back to where it is that, like, back to her center. It reminds us that true success isn't about career milestones. It's about having people you can go to, people who remind you of your values, people who remind you of your goals when the world tries to distract you. So I would say that is another lesson. Hold on, I'm trying to see if there's like a... Bear with me, guys. So I'm meeting someone and I wanted to make sure they knew that I was on my way. Next is evolving without losing yourself. That is really hard, but that is another lesson people need to learn. So Betty's glow up over the series and is one of the most beautiful arcs I've ever seen in a show. Her style changes, her confidence grows, and by the end, she's walking into rooms with a presence she didn't have before. So here's the key, though. She never stopped being Betty. She didn't let success turn her into someone unrecognizable. Her kindness, her compassion, and her authenticity actually stayed with her throughout the whole series. And I don't think I've seen that in many shows. Like, you see a character evolved into something that someone completely different, but she remained the same with a lot of characteristics, and I like that in a character. That is a powerful reminder that evolution doesn't mean abandonment. You don't have to leave behind the essence of who you are to become a better version of yourself. Too often, society pressures us to believe in order to level up, we need to shed everything about our past selves. But Betty shows up how she was originally, but also how... Oh, that's really cool, because I'm about to bring that up. But also adding on to lessons that she actually got. And what I just saw was a butterfly. And that reminds us of a butterfly. A butterfly doesn't necessarily truly shed who it was, because it will forever remain that caterpillar. But when it emerges with their wings, which you should check out my book in the description below, it took the lesson it learned as a caterpillar into evolving into a butterfly. So a little bit of the new, a little bit of the old, combining into being this amazing thing that it is. So you can evolve and still carry your heart with you. Growth and authenticity can coexist. And that is another lesson that she taught us. I would say there's two more key lessons, key components of the show that you can learn. It would be navigating toxic work environments. And I know a lot of people like job hop. They're constantly looking for a job that doesn't make them feel terrible. So let's be real. Mode was very toxic. That company was very toxic. The gossip, the constant competition, the superficiality. Betty dealt with bosses who underestimated her and her coworkers who openly mocked her, and yet she managed to carve out a space for herself. How she lasted that long, kudos to her. But yeah, this lesson is huge. Not every environment you walk into will be healthy. That is something we all have to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, there's always something at the next job, even if you job hop. But you can still learn and grow in these spaces. And sometimes the lesson isn't about fixing the environment. It's about protecting your peace while you're there and maneuvering through the environment. And using that experience as a stepping stone to something better. Betty didn't let mode change her core values. She absorbed what was useful, learned from the challenges, and kept her eyes on the bigger picture. And if you've ever been in a toxic job, you know how draining it can be. But like Betty, sometimes the goal is survival until you can step into alignment with where you're truly meant to be, whether that's owning a business, whether that's being a model, whether that's being a blogger. Check out my blog. Whether that's like, there's so many life paths that we all are meant to be on, but we have to go through the stepping stones first. So I would say the last life lesson is believing in your dreams no matter what. Yes, we're gonna get corny on this last life lesson, but it is so true. At the end of the day, Ugly Betty is a story about ambition. Betty had dreams beyond mode, dreams that seemed too big for a girl like her from the background she came from. But she never stopped believing in them. Even when she was stuck, even when her confidence wavered, she still looked toward the bigger picture. This is one of the most relatable life lessons for us, because how many of us have dreams that feel impossible? Me, still working toward it, but there's a lot of things that are helping me get there. But I want you to ask yourself that. How many times have we told ourselves we're not ready, or we're not good enough, or not connected enough? Betty's story reminds us that dreams don't have to be perfect to be worth chasing. Sometimes the very journey of chasing them, the messy, unglamorous steps along the way, is what makes a dream come alive. Her story says, keep going, even when it feels impossible, because one day you'll look back and realize all those small things, hard steps you had to go through, led you to your success, led you to the place you once thought you were. And now that I think about it, a lot of the stepping stone jobs that I had kind of like built me up to be what it is I do now. Like, I needed tools from each job in order to like help me to be where I am today in this job and be successful at it. So kudos to that. That's something that helped. But in conclusion, what did we learn from Ugly Betty? We learn own what makes you unique. We learn stay resilient when life tells you no. We learn hold on to your integrity. It will outlast shortcuts. We learn keep your family and grounding relationships close, but also have a balance. We learn evolve, but never lose yourself. We learn to survive toxic environments without letting them define you. And lastly, and above all, never stop believing in your dreams. Betty may have been called ugly, but the truth is she was one of the most beautiful characters we've seen on TV, because she showed us what beauty really is: authenticity, heart, and courage. But thank you guys for watching and hanging out with me today and diving into these lessons. If you enjoyed this deep dive, let me know in the comments what other shows or characters you'd love me to break down. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check out the links in my description. Yeah, because we all need a reminder. We all need that reminder that being different isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. Until next time, loves, stay true to yourself. I'll see you in the next video, and keep chasing your dreams. Love you guys. Mwah.